When last we met, you had become embroiled in a bit of a mystery in London. Effie, you have been invited to a little soiree by one Lady Rowan Mars. The envelope, the invitation, was delivered by hand by her fiance, Broad Arrow Jack Slattery, a man that you know from the old days as a bit of a criminal who now seems to have managed to climb up the social ladder a little bit. You were allowed to invite a plus one, and you chose as your plus one Inspector Lestrade. Inspector Lestrade, who is currently investigating some grave robbings that have left Inspector Lestrade a little bit shook because these graves that have been robbed were once the final resting places of two criminals whose arrest and subsequent deaths left a bit of trauma with our Inspector Lestrade. Meanwhile, Eliza, you rescued slash were rescued slash rescued a pretty young man whom you took home with you, as good Victorian girls do. And whilst you were about to do your thing to him, which is to drain him of all his energy, you saw a lot of weird things about him, and you then took pity on him because he seemed to be willing to let you end it all for him and take everything and leave him a dried out husk. And well, this sort of reached your cold little heart a little bit, and you decided that you were going to try to help this man called Percival. At the same time, there was a knock at the door, and the aforementioned Lady Rowan Mars appeared at your door, saying she was hosting a little soiree, that she had heard that you could speak to the dead, and she was wondering if you would be willing to come and hold a seance for her and her friends. It was at that moment that you recognized Lady Rowan Mars as the person who had slit your throat and pushed you in the canal some years ago. I guess it's time to find out how you feel about that, Eliza. As you've opened the door, have seen Lady Rowan Mars, have heard her offered, though she hasn't yet mentioned any sort of remuneration. But she has mentioned that she's holding a soiree and would like you to come and do some reading, since this is what you do, as you had, up until very recently, a job at a little street carnival where you contacted the dead for people. As you stand there in the doorway to your apartment with Percival hiding in your bed behind you, and this very regal, very serious, very austere looking woman standing in front of you, what does Eliza do?
She keeps the door open just enough so that her face is showing and that she can see this woman. As the realization of who she is sets in on her, it can't help but to show on her face a look of surprise and confusion that she hopes the lady doesn't recognize it for what it is. Her thoughts just disappear, and she's just blankly staring at this woman, unable to form a sentence.
Are you quite all right, darling? You seem a little lost for words. Have I come at a bad time?
And she kind of snaps to, "You said a job."
Yes, quite well remunerated, in fact. I don't know how much you usually charge for such things, but, well, to forestall any ill advised negotiations, I would be willing to pay you the sum of £100.
She nearly falls over at this. This is more money than she's probably ever seen in her lifetime. Um, a £100?
Yes, but I'll
Uh,
be expecting you to contact the spirits of 4 or 5 different people. We'll pay you a certain amount up front, let's say £20, and I will pay you the rest once the soiree is over. And, well, let me be honest here. I'm not 100% sure whether or not what you do is true or if it's just trickery, but as long as my guests are satisfied, you will receive the finality of your payment.
She is kind of reeling through her mind all the possibilities that she could do with this money. And the first thing that comes to her mind is the sick man in bed behind her and finding a way to cure him. This would certainly help. Um, it's really an offer too steep to refuse. And so she gives the woman just kind of a nod of her head, still keeping the door as tight as possible. I yes, I think I couldn't possibly say no.
She,
I'm sorry, when did you say this would happen again?
oh, this would be tomorrow evening. She reaches out and lifts your chin up. You are quite a grubby little thing, aren't you? I suppose we'll have to arrange for a little bit of a, well, magic act, I guess is what we will need. Um, I'll send someone to fetch you tomorrow. They will take you to get cleaned up and we'll get you some clothes to wear. You can keep them, of course, once this is over. Uh, you don't have any sort of disease, do you, or lice or anything of the kind that I would not want any of these things to be drug into my home.
No, ma'am.
Hmm. Are you sure you're well? You seem a little, well, drawn, a little pale. You eating enough? Oh, I
Only
suppose.
tired, soul.
Hmm. I'll see that you get some rest. And she opens up her little purse and she'll pull out £20 and she holds it up. I understand that this is quite a bit of money for someone like you. And I understand that you might be tempted to simply take this and run with it. I would ask you to consider the fact that there's much more where this comes from. £100 will set you up for the rest of your life. This you could burn through in a year or two. But beyond that, I am not the kind of person who accepts being played the fool. And if you play me the fool, Miss Doomore, was it?
Yes.
Well, you'll regret it more than you've ever regretted anything in your life. Am I being clear?
Yes, ma'am. And she holds her hand out.
She puts it in your hand, and when you close your hand over it, she grabs your fist and pulls you a little closer and like gets real up close to you and looks in your eyes. Do a a quick, if you would, um, wits and sorry, not wits, but logic and vigilance.
One success.
As she leans in close, and looks into you, you kind of get the feeling that she's looking really, really, really deep into you. You kind of get the feeling she's seeing things about you. Your first fear is that she's going to stumble upon anything that might key her into the fact that you remember her, and so you sort of try to shut down your mind and try to keep that thought away. Think of anything else you can think of, probably like the worst, weirdest things you can think of, just to keep her off the scent. And after a moment, she narrows her eyes. Hmm. Perhaps there's some truth after all to what they say about you. I guess we'll see tomorrow. I'll send someone early afternoon tomorrow to fetch you. It'll be in my cab. You'll recognize it. Don't get yourself killed between now and then, would you?
Yes, ma'am.
Run along then. She turns around without another word, glides all the way to her carriage. The strange fellow who's sitting in the driver's seat, who's wearing like a suit with a nice long coat and a bowler hat, and you can't see his face. His face completely in shadow. Just tips his hat to you, and off they go, rumbling down the street.
As soon as she leaves, Eliza closes the door and kind of just presses her back up against it, and she's holding the coin to her chest and just breathing
Uh,
as though she's just seen a ghost at her door.
is, is everything okay, Miss Doomore?
Oh, yes, Percival. I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Uh,
She's gonna kind of tuck the coin into a pocket hanging from her skirt and come over to him and take a seat at his side.
who who was that? Someone you know? I thought perhaps I recognized the voice.
Using it to worry yourself about that. I imagine at his bedside where he's at, she's got a basin of cool water and a rag, and she's probably at this point taking that and kind of blotting the sweat from his head.
He will smile at you very weakly and goes, I'm so terribly sorry to have suddenly become such a burden to you. Um, if you wish, I can go. I can certainly try to fend for myself. He tries to get up from the bed.
No, no, just stay where you are. You're fine. Just let me take care of you.
May I may I ask you a terribly forward question?
What is it?
That thing you were doing earlier, I felt as if part of me was leaving my body. What what was that?
I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about, Percival. I think maybe the fever's getting to you.
Well, it was terribly forward of me. I'm sorry. Your secrets are certainly your own to keep. I'm just I'm just so tired. I don't know that I would have the strength to stand in any case. And slowly his head kind of lolls down and he falls asleep.
She kind of sighs like a breath of release as he starts to sleep. And she's going to set aside the rag and pull up the covers around him a little tighter and place a chaste kiss at his forehead. And then she's going to pull the coin from the pocket and kind of turn it over in her hands.
You don't have the coin. Oh, the money that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. And in fact, when you pull out the money that Lady Mars gave you, you suddenly feel a tingling in your fingers. And as you look down at the coin, you're reminded of your coin, the coin you were holding the night that she killed you, the coin that you lost in the river. And you're not 100% sure how or why, but you feel like the path towards finding your coin again goes through Lady Mars in some way, shape, or form, that she is connected to it in some way.
I think she admires this bit of money. It's a very handsome bit of money for her for a moment, and soon she slips it back into her pocket, thinking of the other coin
What would
and
you like?
what that could mean for her.
What would you like to do now? You know that Percival needs help. He needs medicine, or he needs something. He's of course weak from what you did to him, but he seems to also be suffering from consumption or something else. Um, he's going to
I
need
think
something. What would you like to do?
with this money, she would seek out a local doctor.
Would you know anyone?
I'm not sure. Would she? Would she know someone? That
Well, so
probably,
I would think you would know like some street quack.
yeah.
Would that be sufficient for you, or would you like want like?
I think she just picked up 20 pounds. I think she would be looking for a legitimate doctor, perhaps even if she has to go and kind of get a little word of mouth from the street.
So I'm gonna have you make another quick roll here for me. I'm gonna have you make a logic and investigation.
Oh boy. No successes.
So being a woman of the street as you are, living in poverty all your life, living in this particular kind of environment, um, the sort of rarefied air that comes with, having money is a world that you don't really understand too much. You know one thing. You know you can't start running around this neighborhood going, "I got 20 pounds. Can someone get me a doctor?" Because that's just going to get you shanked and robbed.
Right.
Um, I would think that after kind of sitting there and thinking through it for a little while, you would think you would need someone that might know a little bit more that higher level of society, or kind of be able to make a contact for you, perhaps in some way. I think you don't really know a lot of people in that sort of level. The only person that sort of comes to mind, and it's not even someone you know or that knows you, but it's literally the only person you can think of. There was that detective, that one detective that came to look at the place where you were killed, that for a while tried to find out who you were. You remember following her through the streets for a while, thinking that maybe they would be able to discover something of what had happened to you, discover where your coin had gone. And while they never seemed to find anything much about you or about your coin or what had happened, they were pretty dogged and they pursued it for quite a while. And well, they at least seemed to have some degree of integrity. I'm pretty sure if you think hard, you might remember the name. It was like started with an L. Lestrange, Lestrade. That's what it was. How many women inspectors can there be in the city? They might be able to help you. Of course, you'd have to talk to them.
I think that makes me a bit nervous because they would know I'm not supposed to be here. And that could be a problem in and of itself.
Would they need to know that you're you, though?
I don't know if she would necessarily feel as though she could trick this person, being that she kind of has this idea of how much they obsessed over her case. But I think she's so desperate to find help for Percival that she would be willing to risk it.
You're thinking you might also pass yourself off as Percival's wife, for example, something like that, or sister. Well, at least you have a trail now. Someone like that, people must know you, of course, are not necessarily part of the criminal element. So asking around about a specific police officer is not necessarily going to get you shanked. So you could give it a try. Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Are you willing to spend a little bit of your coin?
Yeah.
So what we'll do to see if you can find good old Inspector Lestrade is I'm going to ask you to make an empathy and manipulation roll, and I'm going to give you an advantage on it, which means you get to roll 2 extra dice because you're willing to spend a little bit of coin. Risk it for the biscuit.
Oh my God. Okay. 2 successes out of 11 dice.
That's good. You only need one. You only need the one. So, just that's fine enough. So you go around, you maybe are careful who you ask about, but it doesn't take very long. People know Inspector Lestrade. They're kind of fairly well known in the city for various things, various exploits, and so on and so forth, and especially for having been friends with the inimitable Sherlock Holmes, who sadly is no longer of this world. But I mean, that's a pretty good reference. You will soon enough be able to find which police station Inspector Lestrade works out of. And with some resolve, you might decide to stand outside and wait and see if Inspector Lestrade comes around. Do you have gumption? You have gumption. I think you have gumption.
Mm.
No, gumption. I'm just saying you as a person, not as a skill.
Yeah, she does.
Okay, I thought you were looking at your
I
character
would
sheet.
say so.
Meanwhile, very good. Meanwhile, speaking of gumption, not too far from where you are, not too far from where you are in the Limehouse district, there is another young woman who made her first foray into the nightlife in these streets and who has managed, as opposed to poor Eliza, to climb her way out of the social status that she was unfortunately born with and has managed to rise above a little bit. However, Effie, whenever you come back to this neighborhood, everyone knows Effie. You're well known, everyone knows you, everyone waves, everyone says hi. It's kind of like you never left. Um, thanks to Dove, thanks to Billy, no one comes and hassles you for money, even though it's clear that you now have some. Um, how does Effie feel as she travels back through the old neighborhood, her old stomping grounds, where so many strange things happen to her?
I think it'd be really too easy for Effie to act better than all of this. She knows that at one point or another, not that long ago, this was it for her. And so I think she's gentle in her way. I don't think she kind of touts her wealth in any way. I think she about what time of day is it?
I'd say it's early afternoon.
Okay, I think that she's probably dressed modestly and then kind of simply in a day dress and with a hat and nothing super like ostentatious or opulent. I think she's kind to any children that walk by her. She probably gives them a little bit of money to go get themselves a treat and sort of just re-immerses herself back into this sort of impoverished sort of, I guess, blue collar type place for her at this point. I don't think she looks down upon it at any point.
Well, people certainly kind of look up to you, and they're very kind, and they don't hassle you too much. And pretty soon you find yourself in front of the Ruskin Arms, which is the main pub in the area where Billy does all of his business. Again, another place that brings back a host of memories for you. It hasn't changed much. It's still looking slightly better than the rest of the buildings around here. It's a bit more maintained. There are still a couple of well dressed but wolf eyed guards standing out front nonchalantly, but you know that they are part of um, Billy's inner circle and his street gang and are vicious killers. But when they see you, they tip their hats and go, "Miss Clark, beautiful day today."
She'll smile and give a gentle
You'll be
it
looking for
is.
Billy then.
I assume he's inside.
I believe so. I think he's taking care of some business out back, but I'm sure he'll make time for you.
I'm sure he will.
Have
And
yourself a good
she'll
day.
good day, gentlemen. And she'll quite easily step inside, and if he's not inside, she'll probably find where he would normally sit and take a place there.
Yeah, so he's the big corner booth sort of thing is where he normally holds court in the afternoon like this. There's not a lot of people, and it's mainly like a hangout for the gang. So during the day, it's kind of quiet, and then that's why he does a lot of his business here. You do hear voices coming from the back, so there's probably something sort of going on. The bartender, seeing you come in, will immediately prepare whatever it is that you would normally have at this hour. What is it that you would drink at this hour?
Um, Gin. She's a gin girl
But the
through
good
and
gin.
through.
You
Yeah, it's
drink
the
the good
good.
gin.
Yeah, now it's the nice gin. Yeah, now she can afford it.
So he opens a little secret compartment and he pulls out a nice bottle of gin and he pours you a nice double shot and puts a little slice of cucumber on the corner, and he's the only bartender in town who does that, and he's known as Cucumber Phil because of that. And he'll come over and he wraps a little dirty, but the cleanest rag he's got over his arm, and he comes over. "Miss Clark, always a pleasure to see you," and he puts the drink in front of you. "Might I fetch you something to eat?"
No, dear, I'm just here to see Billy. That's all. Thank you, darling.
"Oh, he should be around any moment now." And almost as he says that, and as you take the first sip of gin, you hear boots and voices, and the back door opens, and two huge Irish wolfhounds come running in, almost as if they smelled you a mile away, and they come just beelining right for you, and they kind of come over, and as soon as they get up to you, they sit very obediently and then look up at you and then wait for their command.
I think she'll immediately just reach over and pet them.
Very happy.
Little scratches behind the ears and whatnot, and is quite delighted to see them.
And as you're giving the dogs their scritches, Billy comes walking in, looking like he's got business on his mind. He's followed by two men that you've seen hanging around, lower level members of the gang. They are covered in mud. They have mud, their boots, their pants, the front of their like their shirts. They're just covered in mud, like they've been rolling in dirt and mud all night. And they look really tired, and they're holding their hats, and they look like they've been hard at work. And they walk in, and Billy kind of sees you, and as always, impeccably dressed, the mustache waxed, and out to the side. He doesn't have his hat on, but as always, he's got his little walking cane, under his arm, and he sees you at a corner of your eye, and he just gives you a little nod, and he goes around the back behind the bar, and the two guys get up to the bar, and Billy serves them a couple of shots of gin. And as they're taking their shots of gin, he reaches into another thing, pulls out a little pouch, counts out some coins. And he says, "All right, then, this should sort you out. A couple of more extra guineas for the trouble. And here I'll even throw in a couple of balls." And he's giving them a little bit of opium. "Now get fuck off on out of here, and let's never talk about this dark business again, right?" And then the two, "Right you are, Billy, right you are." And they finish their gins, and they take their little guineas and little balls of opium, and with the look of people who are kind of really into it, hurry
Mhm.
out the door. Billy washes his hands, looking at you, washes his hands, dries them, pours himself a little gin, grabs the bottle, comes on over, puts his cane down on the table, the gin, sits down. Oh, what a fucking day. It's not even half over yet. How you doing then, love?
I'm fine. I came for a social call. I'm not a bad time, is it?
No, it's never a bad time for you, love. It's been a while since you've been around for a social call. I was starting to think perhaps you didn't love old Billy no more.
I think this kind of like stings her a little bit.
He does it with a little smile, though, like he knows it's going to sting a little bit, but, he doesn't mean it.
She sort of narrows her eyes at him for a moment and gives him a once over. And from that, what just happened before her with the guys in the dirt and payment and long nights, she has the answer in her mind. She knows what they were doing, but she wants a little bit more information, and she holds it together and sort of shrugs and said, and I think by the way she words this, he will know that she sort of has an air about her. William, I could never not love you.
If anybody else was to call me that, I'd have their tongues nailed to the wall of my basement.
And what of me, William? What will you do to me for calling you that?
Well, I'm entirely too permissive when it comes to you, Effie. I sort of lose my way around you, you know that. Long and sordid history we have, but lovely nonetheless. He raises his glass to you.
She'll drink to that, and she sort of gives him a smile and says, "Are you too busy to walk with me, Billy?"
He was just about to stuff his pipe. You want to go out for a walk now?
I don't know. Perhaps just moments of privacy. I haven't had that with you in quite some time, I feel.
Well, but if it's privacy you want, do you still have the old office upstairs?
I think she is annoyed by him with this response, but she knows what she wants, and she sighs and says, "Well, what's keeping us?" And she's probably never been so forward with him
Yeah, and I
before.
think he picks up on that, and he
Yeah.
continues stuffing his pipe, and he's like, well, what's keeping us, Effie, is that you look to me like a woman what's got something on her mind. And whilst I appreciate your eagerness, and I'm a little surprised by it, but I welcome it nonetheless, let's just say I'd rather move on to other things, if we are to move on to other things, with clear air between us. Is there's something I can do for you, Effie? You know, I'll do anything for you, doll.
I know you will. And she'll take his hand as he's, pushing the tobacco into the pipe and stills him and sort of gives him a squeeze and very quietly says, "Billy, I've always appreciated you protecting me, as you do. I know that you do. And I always return the favor to protect you in return.
Aye.
And I can only protect you if you are honest with me."
Have I ever been dishonest with you, Effie? There may be certain things I don't speak on for your own protection, your own peace of mind, but if you ask me anything, I'll tell you the straight of it.
Lestrade is investigating the graves.
What graves would that be then?
I'm not stupid, Billy.
This is the part where I don't say things, to both protect you and to make sure that your mind is at ease.
What were you doing?
I wasn't doing anything except do what I do, which is make money.
she's getting frustrated with him, and that is very clear. I think that she probably would not show this emotion with anybody else. Don't toy with me. What is happening? What are you doing?
What is your interest in this, Effie?
She does not want to admit what she's going to admit, but she's going to say it regardless. I worry for you. If Lestrade is on your tail.
I understand that you have some sort of social connection, friendship. I don't know what exactly with this Lestrade, but Lestrade is a copper like any other. If he sticks to his side of the streets, well, we ain't got no problem. Lestrade's a professional. Now, what I need to know, Effie, what I need you to tell me is what's your interest in this. And I understand that you care for me and that you worry about me, and well, I'm quite touched by it.
If you can just give me the truth, and then I can twist that truth to keep Lestrade off of your tail. I've done quite well so far.
Listen, Effie, when someone comes to me with an offer to do something illegal, distasteful, dark business, I weigh it. I weigh the amount of money being offered. I weigh the risk to myself, to my men. And believe it or not, I weigh it against my own sense of morality, which I do have a sense of morality. And if the side that's got the money wins out, then I do the deed. Someone came to see me and asked to get 3 specific people retrieved from their place of rest. And the money was very, very good. And so I took the job. And now my 2 fellers what did the deed, they're going to disappear for a while. They're going to go live at large, and they're going to go get high, and they're going to go fuck some whores and drink some gin and live the high life. And by the time they come back, whatever this thing is, it'll all have blown over. I'm
So
not in danger. Never am.
you don't know why this person asked you?
I'd rather not know why. Whoever wants, whoever's got the money to pay for some dead bodies and wants them, that's just not a person whose head I want to take a little vacation in, you understand?
I do understand. I was quite disturbed when Lestrade had asked me about this in the first place.
Lestrade's already been around to your place asking about this then.
Yes.
Why would Lestrade go to you?
Information is sold. Information is bought. You of all people should know that. You taught me how to sell.
I guess I just didn't think that you sold to the police, because I don't imagine the police pay very well, at least not as much as less official people might.
If I'm the one selling the information to the police, then you're the one who benefits from it. And don't forget that.
He leans over, just tucks your chin a little bit with his thumb and his forefinger. If there's one thing in this life I'm sure of, Effie, is that someday I'm gonna die, and that at the end of the year the taxman is gonna come and visit, and that you will always have my best interest at heart.
You're the only one I care about. And she seems a little bit indignant about that.
I think you care about these 2 old boys here also. And your own. How is Mr. doing?
He's quite well.
Oh.
He almost took apart one of your old acquaintances.
Who?
A man named Jack. Broad Arrow Jack, I believe, was his name.
I thought Jack had quit the life.
He has. He came to invite me to his lady love's soiree, some party.
Signs and wonders. Signs and wonders.
Mm-hmm. Strange, right? Lady Rowan Mars.
Strange indeed. I hear she gets up to all sorts of weird dark business.
Well, I'm going, but
Are you now?
I am.
What did she invite you for exactly?
I am quite the socialite, and I'm hurt. Billy,
Well,
how could
don't
you
be
think
hurt.
otherwise?
You're a smart gal, you know. Someone like Lady Rowan Mars doesn't go around inviting just around anybody to her little soirees. I didn't
No,
get an invite.
I hate to break it to you, Billy, but
Ooh, I'm not good for social situations, am I?
no, you're just too handsome.
Uh, well, I can't help that. Comes from my ma. I got all her good genes. That's why I've got a little bit of a little soft feminine side to me.
Soft. Is that what you call that?
Well, it starts out that way. Depends what happens next. And he reaches out, grabs his cane, and with a cocked eyebrow, gently reaches over and taps you on the thigh 3 times with it.
She'll sigh and look him over, and she will stand up and sort of curling close to him, and she'll kiss him, and she'll very softly say, "Oh, William, I am but a sucker for you."
I knew I was bound to get at least one good thing out of this life. He looks up at the bartender. Hey, Cucumber Phil. I'm not to be disturbed for the next hour. Then he looks at you. Make that hour and a half.
How
Shall we?
generous of you. We shall.
He'll grab the gin and he'll look at the 2 dogs. You boys stay here. Watch the place for me. He'll extend his elbow out to you.
She'll take it and sort of cozy up next to him.
I'm thinking perhaps not this place. Perhaps we go somewhere a little nicer. What do you think? You've got a few hours to give old William.
I did ask for a walk.
Less than. As the 2 of you exit arm in arm, the 2 Irish wolfhounds watch you go, and then one of them looks at the other, and one of them makes a little sound, and then the 2 of them lay their heads down in front of the fire.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. Monsieur Jack. You woke up early, went out, took care of some errands. It was quiet in your head this morning. Change of pace. Been mulling over everything. When you returned home for lunch, your fiancée, Lady Rowan Mars, was not there. You were informed that she was out on an errand for the party that's coming next day, but that you were asked to wait around as she had needed to see you about something. And so, what would Jack do to while away a little bit of time waiting for his fiancée?
Jack's going to try to indulge himself in the finer things for a bit. Some food, some alcohol. Enjoy the calmness, the rare calmness that this morning has brought him. Spend some time just kind of looking around and taking in his surroundings. All the time, a sense of dread in the pit of his stomach. What was that feeling, that urge, that necessity that he felt last time he saw Lestrade? He doesn't have any love for Lestrade by any sense of the word, but never has he felt such anger, such hatred, such emotion spring up so quickly. I'm gonna have to figure out the way to get rid of this.
And as you let your mind wander over these thoughts, you're sitting in a little smoking room, taking in some sunshine coming in from the glass uh, roof of the place, and the door slowly opens. And in the doorway stands this woman. Her clothes are rags. They're completely rotten. Most of her flesh just hangs loose, gray, caked with dirt. You can see the bones through it. Her hair is mostly all gone. It used to be long and black. Now it's just this patchy, wiry mess. Her eyes are dead. The skin is eaten in places. Well, since you asked. And she shuffles into the room.
What are you?
Oh, come now, I'm sure you remember my voice. I've been whispering to you for quite a while now. That and you did dig me out of the ground.
Exactly, that means you are dead.
I am. I am. Yet I live on. You know, they say you never truly die as long as someone remembers you.
What do you want?
Hmm. She pulls a little ottoman over and she sits down. When she does, you get this whiff of rotten flesh that just sort of wafts over you.
Jack's gonna stand up and kind of walk away a little bit. We can maintain our distance, if you don't mind.
Oh, come now, we've been so close.
Hmm.
What do I want? What do I want? I would like to not be here anymore.
On that, we can agree. I would like for you to not be here either.
Something's keeping me here, and I don't think it's you, even though you disturbed my remains. Don't you know it's a grievous sin to do that?
Jack will look down with a bit of almost embarrassment. I do what I must do. Now, how do we get rid of you?
Well, I did mention you could do me a little favor and kill Lestrade. She killed my brother.
I understand that, but killing her in the gardens of someone who I have loose ties to is probably not the greatest idea.
Well, none of this is a great idea if you ask me.
Well, my goal is to make it to tomorrow.
What's tomorrow? Is it a Monday? I've lost track of
Mm,
time.
I don't mean, I understand as dead you may not care. Once this is finished, you disappear, but I have a life I'd like to
Do
maintain.
you know what happens when you die?
No, what happens?
Well, let me tell you what happens. Now, I don't know if it's the same for everyone. I died at the end of the rope because of Lestrade. You know this, of course. And, well, the last memory I have was the executioner putting a bag over my head. And at that point, I stopped crying. I thought to myself, what's the point in crying? They can't see me anymore. But I could hear the people there just waiting, just watching, just wanting to see the spectacle of my death. just being titillated by the details of what me and my brother had done. All these people wishing they could do the same, wishing they could experience that, but just not having that damn guts to do anything. But they were there that day because it was safe. My hands were tied behind my back. I had a black bag over my head. And then I felt the floor go out from under me, and there was a loud crack. And I remember thinking, was that my neck? And the next thing, I was standing on the shores of a river, a beautiful black river that moved very languorously, very slowly. There was another world on the other side, a place that beckoned to me, that called to me. There was a boat there. Now you might have expected some kind of skeleton in a cloak to be sitting in it, but no, just a sad old man, the saddest eyes I've ever seen, just sitting there. And he saw me, and I said, could I get across the river? And he said, I would take you, ma'am, but it seems as though your time is not quite done. There are things still calling to you, and that's. I was like, well, no, that's impossible. My brother's over there. I want to go be with my brother. I want to see him again. And he said, no, you can't. There are things you still have to do. And that's when I heard your voice for the first time. You were grunting. Perhaps you were digging this, well, lifestyle has made you go fat and soft, I guess, and you were grunting as you were digging my grave.
Continue.
And the next thing I knew, I was looking through your eyes. And the first thing I saw was your Madame. You know she's the one who sent us to kill those people, don't you?
She has many do her bidding.
She was particularly interested in them. There were 4. They had something she wanted.
What was that?
Pieces of paper. Each one of them had one piece of paper. She wanted them. And in exchange for killing them and getting those pieces of paper, we got to kill the bitch. That rotten, rotten woman who ran the orphanage where me and my brother grew up, who sold us into slavery to this factory owner who beat us, who starved us. We got to kill her. And I got to eat her dark heart. And then that other bitch, Lestrade, came in. What is she doing there? Who the fuck goes into a place like that alone at night? I don't care if you're a copper. Well, she got what was, and she turns over, and as she does, the door opens, and you see Lady Mars step in. And she looks around and says, were you talking to yourself? And you see that Morag is no longer there.
Sometimes you just gotta get the old brain moving with some stimulating conversation, even if no one's there to listen. And he tries to kind of straighten his face.
And you were doing that in a falsetto.
Well, you know.
What do you get up to when I'm not around, Jack? Sometimes I wonder what goes on in your head.
Sometimes I wonder what goes on in my head as well.
No. Many a strange thing.
Could be the alcohol.
Speaking of which,
yes,
I would need you to go and pick up something for me. Would you mind terribly, dear?
Of course not. What can I get for you?
I need you to go down to Limehouse, to Maze Row, to Haversham's Tanners. You'll meet a man there, Horace Haversham. He'll have something for me. You'll have to drive it back. It'll be in a cart of some sort, so you may want to have someone drop you off, or if you feel like taking a walk, it shouldn't take you more than 25 or 30 minutes to get there. He's already been paid. All you need to do is show up and say that you're here to pick up something for me, and he will give it to you, and I would like you to bring it back here forthwith. I promise this is the last thing I ask you to do for me. I know you didn't like doing the other thing, and so I'm not going to ask you to do that again. But this I would need you to do. And once you've done that and you return here tonight, we'll have a little evening just to ourselves, and then tomorrow we will prepare for the festivities. Your friend is coming, right?
Yes.
Is she bringing a +1? Should I tell?
I do not. She did not state prior to me leaving. I apologize.
Woman
But
like
a lady
her
like
probably
her,
has
we
more
can
than
only
+1.
assume.
Sorry.
Absolutely. We can only assume she has more than plenty to people to ask.
I've also secured the services of one Eliza Doomore. I'm told she can speak with the dead. I'm sure it's some trickery of some sort, but at least it'll entertain the other guests for a bit. You did go to your fitting, right? The suit will be ready for tomorrow?
Jack scrambles in his head. Did he make it to the fitting?
I don't know, did he?
He did.
Okay, good. Now,
Of course, my love.
thanks. What would I do without you? And she comes over and she gives you a little peck on the cheek. You're not only the sweetest one, but also very reliable, and I'm thankful for that.
Of course.
Oh, I did order oysters. Those oysters that you like.
Oh,
We'll serve them
fantastic.
tomorrow, yes. They'll
Oh.
be delivered fresh in the morning.
Oh, well, that is superb. We do love a good oyster.
Yes, and you should make sure we have some absinthe. I do believe that one of our guests is quite a fan of it.
Absinthe. I shall pick some up while I'm out.
Thank you very much. Such a good boy.
What
Well,
will you be doing today?
I have a million things to prepare. I have to choose the linen. I have to make sure all the supplies have been ordered. I have to make sure that we have enough servants for tomorrow, the music to organize. I'm swamped.
Absolutely. Well, I shall see you this evening. And he'll kind of reach over and give her a kiss on the cheek.
Oh, you dirty boy.
Well, there's more where that came from. This evening, then.
This evening.
And he'll kind of give her a little head bow and looks like I'm going for a walk.
It'll take you about a half hour to get out there, and whilst you're walking somewhere else not too far, down a mean, dirty little alley lined on both sides by old crumbling tenements, all kind of leaning forward, all gray-faced and just not a good place. There's one specific building that is behind a wrought iron gate. It is boarded up now. It's old, but would probably still be used if it wasn't for some of the things that happen here. There's a sign above the wrought iron gate that says St. Agnew's Orphanage. Somewhere nearby in the street stands a long figure. Lestrade, what are you doing there?
Lestrade is slowly making her way towards the orphanage, almost as if she's counting her steps, getting closer and closer. And as she takes the last step, she sort of stops short. And it's almost like the orphanage is this big looming shadow, one that she thinks might swallow her up if she stands there for too long. And And she is closer now to it than she has been since the incident.
How
And
close is she?
is the gate closed? Would she not be able to get past the gate?
No, the gate would be ajar. Certainly some people have used this place to hide out or sleep at night.
She would have walked past the gate, kind of squeezing her way through the open gate, and she stands at the foot of the steps leading up to the orphanage.
As you approach it, you get flashes of that night. You still don't know why you chose to go in. You were alone. It wasn't until that Bobby showed up that you really kind of perked up the courage to go in there, and he walked in with you. He had a lantern and he had his whistle. If anything happened, he could blow that whistle. You walked in and it was very dark and very quiet, and you heard a sound. Not too sure what it was. Something wet, something cracking. You should have told the Bobby to blow his whistle then. You knew that he wasn't going to do it because he didn't want to appear like a coward in front of an inspector or detective as you were at that time. And you considered it, but you thought, what if it's nothing? What if there's nothing and we blow this whistle and more of them come and they're all gathering around and they see that I told this one to blow that whistle for no reason because there's some rats digging around in the walls. That just wouldn't do. So you kept walking. The moon was coming in through some of the cracked windows. You still don't know exactly what the first thing you saw was, but you remember the smell of blood. And the rest of it's very jumbled. Blood everywhere, bodies cut up. The two McVeighs, Malcolm and Morag, brother and sister, both naked, drenched in blood. Morag eating something red and shiny. Both of them seeing you. Your boyfriend trying to blow his whistle, but just being overwhelmed and retching and not being able to blow that damn whistle. Morag taking off. Malcolm jumping on you, landing on top of you. The Bobby just trying to blow his whistle. Morag coming up behind him, killing him. The whistle falling inches away from your hand, drenched in the blood of the Bobby. Just not able to reach it. Malcolm on top of you, blood on his face, this maniacal look in his eyes, just strangling you, ripping away at you. A knife in his hand, cutting you right here across the shoulder and the neck. Your gun going off. A surprised look on his face. Your gun going off a second time. You're not even sure who was pulling the trigger. And then just laying there with this dead man on top of you, bleeding on you, dying on top of you. For the 5, 10, 15 minutes it took for someone to finally come in response to the gunshots and find you there.
I think that Lestrade would have spent the last year or so with this dread building in her chest at the very thought of this place. And being so close to it now, closer now than she's been in that year, fear still grips at her throat like a vice, and it's cold and it's suffocating. And she grips at the old bloodstained whistle, holding onto it like it's an anchor, trying to keep herself rooted in the present, looking forward to the future, even as the past sort of bites at her heels. And she almost wants to laugh at her luck her horrible, horrible luck that the one thing in her past that she would have wanted to stay dead and buried seems to have up and walked off. That the singular worst moment in her life haunts her. And there's guilt. Guilt for everything that she could have done different, for all of the various outcomes that could have happened if she was better, if she was smarter, if she was more like him. And as she's looking up at the facade of the orphanage, she murmurs to herself, "What would you do, Holmes? How would you solve this?"
The voice that comes from behind you doesn't really surprise you. It's almost kind of oddly comforting. Well, for one thing, I wouldn't go in there. Nothing good can come from going in there. Your stubborn refusal to accept that is a little disheartening. There's nothing to gain from going in there. So why do you insist? Are you trying
Because
to
I'm
prove
afraid.
something? Well, be afraid. There's no sense in not being afraid. What's got you stumped?
Why would...
Oh,
Who dug them up? Who would have dug them up?
yeah. When you think of things to steal, a body pretty much would be the bottom of my list. There's not much use for it. It stinks. It's difficult to move around. Not very logical, is it? But if the criminal mind were logical, then we'd be out of a job. So let's think about this. The problem you're having is that you're looking at the crime. You don't want to look at the crime. You want to look at the origin of the crime. All crime originates in the mind of one person, but it can pass through the hands of several. If you can't figure out right away whose hands are responsible, ask yourself, what mind is behind this? Don't ask who dug them up. Ask who would want them dug up.
Lestrade is quiet for a moment as her mind sort of races. And she's muttering to herself out loud. The McVeys had no family, no connection. No one even came to her trial or her execution. No one was there when she died. So the victims, there's families, but the one unifying factor is the Blackwood Society. But no one knows who's behind that, and Lord Blackwood is dead. And the McVeys' victims are too. But that magician, the engineer who helped Lord Blackwood fake his first death, he's still around. What was his name? John Neville Mascaline.
You know,
He might know.
they do say a magician's tricks are only as good as his engineers. You know, Lestrade, I have to hand it to you. Now, you'll never be as smart as I am, but then again, nobody is, so I wouldn't hold that against you. And you shouldn't hold it against yourself either. It's just the way things are. But you do have a little something. You have a little something. You do have a little brain that works in there. More than most people I've met. Just Don't go in there. There's nothing in there for you. What happened in there is done and gone. On to other things now.
Lestrade nods her head, and still she doesn't look back, staring forward like she has time and time again when Holmes has spoken to her. And perhaps it's because there's a fear of what might be standing behind her. Like maybe it's some specter of Holmes or a gruesome devil who has taken the form of him, or a rotted and maggot-ridden corpse. And to her, those are all of the best possibilities. The worst would be that there is nothing. That there is absolutely nothing and no one standing behind her, and it's all in her head. That what happened a year ago so severely broke her that she's conjuring some version of Holmes that exists only within her mind and her memories. And worse yet, it's Holmes of all people who provides her with comfort when she feels herself begin to spiral. And she'll wait a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes before she finally turns around, knowing that if he was there, he's not anymore. And her neck begins to throb. The scar that Malcolm had left on her neck, so close to her jugular, begins to ache. And she takes out her pipe and a box of matches, taking a moment to light her pipe. As she sets off, she inhales deeply. A sweet yet musky scent surrounds her like a sickly maple syrup as she makes her way towards where she thinks the magician and engineer might be.
As you step out onto the streets, you hear a voice. Inspector Lestrade, is that you?
I look in the direction.
I turn around to see a Bobby there. Oh, sorry. We got a report that someone was trying to break into the orphanage. I thought I'd pop over and see what it was. We've had a lot of people trying to get in there for, well, various reasons. But I'm sorry to have
Just me.
disturbed you.
Sorry you had to make your way all the way out here.
Oh, just doing my rounds. Oh, actually, by the way, while I'm here, while I have you, I was just at the station, and someone said that someone was asking for you earlier. A young woman. Didn't leave a name, but seemed very intent on finding you.
Did she
just
say
like-
where I could find her?
No, but I do believe I saw her hanging outside the station when I left to do my rounds. And she might still be there if she hasn't gotten bored. She seemed a fidgety type.
I'll give him a nod, and I will redirect my original pathing to head back to the station, throwing him a thanks and have a good night as I leave.
So you arrive, my friend Jack, in Limehouse, which is a Chinatown district here. You know it fairly well from your days haunting the opium dens. You arrive at the Haversham's, what did I call it?
What is Haversham? That's what I wrote.
Haversham is the name. Haversham's Tanners. So it's a tannery. A man wearing a leather apron that was a multitude of colors. His arms, the flesh on his arms, dyed almost to black by all the different dyes that he uses in the tanning process. Has come out to meet you in the yard. You've said "Hi, I'm here to get something for Lady Rowan Mars." And he gives you a dark look, and he nods, and he goes, "Wait here." And he goes back, and then a few moments later, doors open on a shed out the back, and a boy comes out driving a 2-horse cart that he pulls up into the yard in front of you. He hops off, he runs off. The man comes back out, wiping his hands to really no good because his hands are just permanently dyed now. He says, "All right, well, you're all paid up. Just wouldn't mind if you saw to it to bring back the cart. We can still use it."
Absolutely, we can make that occur.
And tell Lady Mars that it was a pleasure to serve.
It always is.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. Have yourself a good day.
Good days.
And he goes back inside, and you're left standing there next to this wagon. It's one of those wagons that's like kind of like a truck bed kind of thing with little, sides, all sides, 2 horses that look like, they're kind of pissed off at life. What do you do?
Guess we should get this back. And he'll kind of take his time, give it a once over. Doesn't want to get stuck anywhere or have any issues.
The wagon looks like fine. I mean, it's there's splotches of dye sort of everywhere, and then there's the cargo.
He will he'll give the cargo kind of a once over to see if he can
The cargo appears to
discern
be
what it is.
There's a tarp, and you can see shapes underneath the tarp, like there are things lying underneath it.
Is it tied down, or could he lift it and look?
You could lift it and look. There are like little weights on the corners or something.
He'll lift it and give it a little look, kind of see what's under there.
Dead bodies. You are looking at 3 dead bodies in various stages of decomposition. They look like they've been processed by the tanner to stop the decomposing. You don't recognize them. They're not people you know. They don't smell anymore because of the chemicals that were used. And
well, I didn't have to pull these out. And he will get up in the cart and begin the horses.
As you pull out into the street and start heading out of Limehouse District, coming out of the Ruskin Arms, which is the bar is owned by Dove, Billy Dove, the Dove Doyle, the head of this neighborhood, the head of the gang here, the Dove Row gang. And you spot a figure that you know well. Miss Effie Clark comes out of the bar, pulling her shawl up. By this point, it's like late afternoon, almost dinner time.
Oh, Miss Clark, how are you?
Oh. And she sort of looks up at you unexpectedly. She's trying to keep to herself after this little rendezvous, and she's left Dove with a cup of tea and a kiss on the head and sort of sorted him, and making promises that she'll come and visit him sooner rather than these long stretches of time. And so she's sort of misty-eyed in that way, and she sort of gathers herself. Jack, it's good to see you.
You as well. Just you came across my tongue but a few hours ago. Miss Mars was wondering, did you have a +1?
Yes, I do, in fact.
And do we know who that will be so we can prepare?
The good Inspector Lestrade, of course. A good friend of mine.
Oh, fantastic. I was not aware you were such good friends.
Of course, I've been friends with Lestrade for quite some time. I have to ask, Jack, are you all right? You were quite upset the other day. Yesterday.
Well, I'm fine, thank you very much. It's been stressful trying to get everything for the party, and I guess I just haven't been sleeping as much as I should.
Oh, well, strange. Very strange.
But it will be a fantastic party. We do look forward to seeing you and Lestrade there.
I do appreciate the invitation from Lady Mars, and I do look forward to the party. I am quite the guest. I hope that I impress her ladyship.
I have no doubt you will. And upon kind of the mention of Lestrade, you can watch as Jack's eyebrows kind of peak in interest. Did you need a ride somewhere?
No, Jack, I think that it is best that I walk along myself, but I certainly appreciate that. She does take note of you taking note of talking about Lestrade, and she just makes a very interesting mental note of that. And I think that Jack would be aware to be that of what Effie's occupation is.
Mhm.
And that she is always making notes on information on people as she interacts with them. It's almost compulsory at this point. She sort of looks at the cart and looks at you and hauling some goods, I see.
Just odds and ends for the party.
Curious. Well, I'd hate to spoil the surprise, but I'm most so curious. Do you mind if I take a look?
There's nothing back there but some old leathers. Nothing to see here.
She knows that if she presses, she'll be considered rude, and this could get back to Lady Mars, and so she's just going to sort of back off and sort of just walk along and sort of tip her head to Jack. Well, I'll see you tomorrow evening.
I simply can't wait.
And as you say that, you hear a voice, gruff, from somewhere that says, "Broad arrow, Jack Slattery, you bitches bastard." And then a gunshot rings out. And I would like Effie and Jack to each roll a d6 and tell me what you get.
I got a 3.
50-50, Jack.
I got a 4.
And Jack, you look in the direction of the voice and you see a face you recognize. You see Duff Claiborne there. You see the gun in his hand. You see him fire as he's aiming at you. And just as he does, Effie's coming around and says, "I'll see you tomorrow." And the bullet catches Effie right in the back. Meanwhile, back at the police station. Eliza, you've been waiting there for a long while. It's almost dark. You know Percival's going to probably be waking up, kind of be disoriented, be alone. You're starting to think it might be time to quit this. Maybe Lestrade's not coming back, whatnot. And just as you think that, as if your thoughts had summoned Lestrade, you see a familiar figure, pipe in hand, rushing across. Well, not rushing, but moving with purpose across the square, heading towards the police station. You certainly know that they're not going to know you, but you recognize them.
I'm going to begin to move forward, and I've kind of got my hand raised as I'm approaching you. Excuse me? Excuse me? Inspector Lestrade?
Lestrade will put her pipe kind of down. Were you the one that was asking about me? I ran into someone who said a young woman had been round looking for me.
Yes, I hope I'm not inconveniencing you.
Oh, not at all. What is something wrong? Do you need help?
Well, I heard that you're quite kind to those in need, and a dear friend of mine is sick. I'm sorry to bother you, but I do need to find a doctor, a real one. You wouldn't happen to know where to find someone, would you?
You will see Lestrade sort of look you up and down, not in any sort of way that you're used to people looking you up and down, I imagine. And she'll nod. I'm sorry to ask you this, but you do have the coin, right?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, actually, I do know a doctor nearby. If you want to follow me, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name's Martha.
Miss Moffat. It's nice to meet you. You already know me, Inspector Lestrade.
Yes,
But
there's
yes,
been quite the
follow me.
word of you on the streets.
Lestrade's gonna kind of give like an awkward smile. Oh, good. I hope. Yeah, actually,
Very
probably
much
not.
so. Thank you.
Lestrade sort of almost used to her interactions with Effie will offer her arm to Martha, and whether or not she takes it will start to stride forward down the street in the direction she knows the doctor to be.
I think she's a bit hesitant at first, being so close to someone who she knows has spent quite a long time looking for her in specific. But after being quite convinced that she doesn't realize who she's speaking with, she's gonna take the arm and walk down the street with her.
Lestrade doesn't. There's no recognition. There's no sort of acknowledgement of whether or not you took the arm. She just continues to walk forward, her just gaze straight ahead.
You make your way across the Limehouse district looking for a doctor. You know a Chinese doctor that lives nearby who, as on occasion provided you with some medicine, but is also highly skilled and usually does not, make any difference whether he's helping rich people or lower class people. He just sort of takes iron. So you figure he'd probably be kind of the best um, deal for this. I do want to remind you that you got earlier someone cheered 300 bits, so each of you have an advantage. So you might want to take that down. Insomnia, thanks so much for the cheer. Who would you like to give the advantage to, my friend? And I also want to give a shout out to Angry Nerd Girl for the raid. Just came in. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We are playing Penny Dreadful. My version of Penny Dreadful using the Vason rules. Thank you so much for dropping in. As you are making your way towards the doctor, you hear some shouting and a gunshot that echoes throughout the crowded street, and then you hear people start screaming, Lestrade. It seems to be coming from just down the road from where you are.
Lestrade is going to high alert, and she's going to turn to Martha and wait here, love, and she's going to rush towards the commotion.
And Eliza, as Lestrade runs off towards where the sound of the commotion is coming from. You get a feeling very similar to the one you got earlier with Lady Rowan Mars, where you feel sort of things coming together, pieces coming together, lines crossing each other and sort of connecting. And you kind of sense like whatever's happening out there in some way, shape, or form, it is connected to your coin and your quest and what's going to happen. My friends, let's do something we rarely do and roll some initiative. In fact, we're not going to roll initiative because this game uses cards for initiative. So we will do that. If you want to turn your attention to the map that I have so carefully provided for you. Here. Lestrade down here with Effie and Jack. As soon as I find Jack. Where'd you go, Jack? There you are. So Jack, you were over here with the wagon. Effie was there. She stepped in front of you. Got shot most horribly. And across the street, you see your man Duff. There are other people around, sort of rummaging around. But let's do a quick initiative here, my friends. I'll draw cards. Some of you may or may not have powers that affect initiative. I don't think anyone took any. So I'm going to go in the order I see you. So Lestrade will go at 1. Jack Slattery will go at 10. 5 for Eliza. 7 for Effie. And 4 for Duff. So as you start rushing towards the scene, Myriad, you'll see a man with a gun who's over here. Oops. Let me just log this so I don't. All right. You'll see a man with a gun over here, and you will see over yonder here a couple of people you recognize, of course, Effie and Jack. There are other people running around. I'm not going to overpopulate the map for no good reason, but there are people kind of screaming and sort of running around. Is this a map by my good friend Solution? I'll put a link in chat in a moment. What would you like to do at 1, Lestrade?
I would like to approach the man with the gun with, I imagine I have some sort of badge, correct, denoting me as an inspector?
Yeah. I think it was a badge. Back then it was a card, but it was like definitely something that would be seen. I will also say that I'll also say that police officers don't usually carry weapons, but since your situation, that you would have carried a pistol. So if you want to, you would have a pistol if you want.
Okay. Is there like movement rate or anything?
No, so you can go literally anywhere you want on the map.
Okay, I'm gonna sort of go up here, right next to this kind of wagon, just in case I do need to take cover. And I'm going to kind of have my one hand out with the card in my other, and I'm going to call out to him. Sir, please put the weapon down. My name is Inspector Lestrade. Please put the weapon down or you will be under arrest.
Let's give me an empathy and manipulation roll.
Empathy. That is 1 success.
All right. So as you come running out at him and you yell out in your best, authoritative voice, like a good British copper, please, sir, stop doing the crime.
Please stop criming.
Stop criming, sir. Please stop criming. He kind of looks over at you, and you can tell that he's kind of trying to gauge if you're joking or not, and that's, something you get sometimes from the more hardened criminals, being not clearly a woman or a man. People kind of are not sure sort of how to take you, and so they turn around. He kind of eyes you a little bit, and you don't know what he's going to do, but it doesn't seem like he's going to listen to you. So that was your action. She's using a skill.
Can I do
Yes.
one more thing, like just like an RP thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna call out. Do I notice that Effie is the one on the ground?
Go ahead and do a quick logic and vigilance.
1 success.
Yep. You see that it's Effie that's on the ground, and she seems injured.
Okay, I'm just gonna make note of that then. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
In fact, let's see how injured Effie is.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. You take the shot, Effie, and the shot ripped right into your shoulder. So you will take 2 physical conditions. So mark off 2 physical conditions. You took 2 wounds. So go to your sheet wherever it says, and you can pick whichever ones you want except broken. So you'd probably have wounded, and then you might have battered, I guess.
Battered. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, check those 2 off as you hit the ground. And like you're in terrible pain. This burns down all the way into your body, and you're seeing your blood on the ground in front of you.
Gross.
It's not very good. He gets to go at 4, and seeing you sort of come at him, he's gonna yell at you, "You stay out of this!" And he's going to move forward and level his gun again at Jack. And this time he's gonna try to shoot Jack again, and hopefully not, hit Effie. All right, Jack, since you have not moved, you could choose to try to dodge, but if you do that, you lose your action this round. Would you like to try to dodge?
Yes.
Roll your physique plus agility. You're looking for at least a 6. If you have more 6s, so much the better.
7 dice, no 6.
Would you like to push? You can push. If you push, you get to reroll all your failures, but you will take a physical condition.
No.
Okay. So you take, unfortunately, 2 physical conditions as the bullet hits you, spins you, and you kind of fall off the wagon, blood exploding up in the air. Thank you, Insomnia Knight. Who would you like those to go to? You're going to say me again, aren't you? At 5, Eliza. Littlebones and Mornian, you each have an advantage. So you each have 2, and the other 2, Myriad and Creep, each have 1.
Where is the attacker standing right now?
Right here.
Oh, it's that guy. Okay. How does my fear ability work?
Well, you would definitely need to have his attention, but you wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily need to be close to him. So I kind of imagine the way it works for you is that you would need to be close enough and draw their attention, and then you would kind of reveal your true nature. So I kind of assume that when you're, well fed and kind of holding it together, you appear fairly normal, but like you would basically look at them and like show them your wound, and your eyes would turn black, and you would say something that only they would hear in like some sepulchral voice, and then you would strike fear into them. So it's kind of a magical effect. So people
Right.
around would not necessarily notice exactly what happened, but they would know you kind of
Mhm.
yelled and drew attention of the guy.
I don't know if I want to put a target on my back like that. She's gonna rush up behind him and grab him, but she would like to make it in her motions from the outside viewer, it looks like she's going to tackle this man, but instead she's using her psychic vampire ability upon making contact with him.
Okay, so you're gonna rush over there. Tiny little woman in rags.
Tiny.
Tiny little woman in rags. Excuse me, sir. May I kill
Lestrade
you?
is horrified by this.
Seeing her just run over to the guy.
Effie's pumped.
Effie's dying. Effie's not pumped.
She's pumped to see another. Look, prostitutes got to stick together, man.
You know, ladies of we prefer the term ladies of availability.
Ladies of availability better stick together.
So, Creep, you run over, no problem. To do a psychic vampire thing, you have to make an empathy plus manipulation roll. However, I will say you have to basically grab him first. So go ahead.
So I imagine she, in her little tiny form, is going to try and leap onto his back and in like a feign of grappling him.
So physique and agility.
All right.
You do have an advantage, which is 2 extra dice if you ever want to use it.
No, I think I'm good on this one.
Okay.
That is 1 success.
That's all you need. You get there, you kind of jump up and wrap your arms around him. He's like, "Hey, what the? Get the hell off of me." Then you put your hands down into his shirt and you start reaching for that energy, that life force that's inside of him. Go ahead and make an empathy plus manipulation roll. For each success you get, you will give him 1 physical condition. If you want to break him, he needs 4, but at least...
Yeah, I would like to push my roll.
All right, so you can re-roll any failures you have. You will take a mental condition for doing so. Do you want to use your advantage?
I don't need to with my push. I got 4 successes.
Arg! Would you like to describe what people would see?
So the people around would see her kind of tackling him from behind, and it looks as though she's almost strangling him and trying to force him to the ground, but what she's really doing is those little hands, as Bleak said, had kind of slipped under his collar and are flattened against his chest, and she's siphoning the life from him as he's growing weaker, and he kind of drops to his knees at first, and she's still holding fast to him, and then in a little bit more time he just kind of falls forward and her on top of him, and as she feels those last bits of life kind of draining into him and from him and into herself, she's repositioning her arms so that she's choking him as tightly as possible for the dramatic effect of anyone coming to pull her away from him.
So in that moment, Mornian, in your head you will hear, "Oh, that's interesting. Kentucky Fried Creature, thanks so much. Creep and Myriad each have an advantage.
Thanks, Creature.
From the KFC man himself. And I will say, Myriad, you get to make a logic plus vigilance roll.
Okie dokie. Do I have enough dice for that?
Grab yourself a nice bucket of Kentucky Fried Creature. You will probably need to pull out a lot of dice because, well, yeah, you're trying to notice something that you're not involved in. So you get to use your thing that gives you a +2 to.
Oh, and I get to do +2 as well.
Yep.
Okay. That is 4 successes.
You don't know what you saw, but you saw something weird. You saw something that, at least for now, you can't explain, because you saw this tiny little thing jump up on this guy basically just touch him, and you literally saw him desiccate in front of your eyes. He looks almost like a living corpse. And when he falls, he looks completely lifeless. And this tiny little thing that's on top of him seems now to have way more vitality and energy and glow about her than she did before. But it is Bones' turn. You're on the ground, Bones. You're bleeding. You're hurting. You're not seeing any of this shit because you're like, holy fuck, this hurts.
Yeah.
What would you like to do?
I think first of all, Effie's really mad right now. She's like hostile. And I think she's going to try to get up, at least up on her knees, and sort of reach out as she's like sort of trying to hold the wound as best she can. And she's going to look to see if the man who shot her is dead yet.
When you do, would you please make me an empathy plus observation roll?
Okay. That's 4. That's 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Now you don't get a penalty because it's a mental roll, and you only have physical conditions, so they don't affect your mental rolls.
Okay, I got 2 successes.
You look. The man crumples to the ground. He looks like he's not moving. His gun has kind of clattered away from him. There's a young woman on his back, holding on to him, choking him maybe. And when she kind of looks up for a moment, you recognize her. You recognize her from 3 years ago. You recognize the woman on the edge of the canal who waved at you before someone came up behind her and sliced her throat open and pushed her in the canal. And she's right there, lying on top of your assailant, not 10 feet away from you. And it's her. And Eliza, as you lock eyes with Effie, you also recognize her, the last person you saw as a living being. Effie, what would you like to do?
I think Effie's going to call out. I think she's going to try and rationalize this. I think she's trying to rationalize the fact that she's kind of bleeding out right now.
Yes.
But she's more mad than anything, and she's kind of mad that he's dead already because she wanted to go get Dove to kill him. And she's going to sort of reach out with her other hand for Jack to help her. And as she does this, she's going to call out to Lestrade. Go get Dove now. I want all of this man's men dead. And a doctor. Please.
Jack, you are on the ground. You have fallen off the wagon. You've been shot. You've recognized Duff. You know Effie's been shot. You haven't really seen what else is going on. You're kind of busy trying to, keep your body fluids inside of your body. What would you like to do?
God damn it. Fucking Duff. Jack's gonna try to stand, like by pulling himself up by the wagon. And just kind of try to survey the scene because I tried to dodge and it missed, so I can't really do much.
I'll tell you, you see Lestrade down the street a little ways. Eliza, I don't think means anything to you. You just see this small woman on top of Duff, apparently choking him down. She must be a professional wrestler. We will step out of initiative for now, since the immediate threat is over. I will go around and ask each of you what you are doing, and then we will put all these things into action. And we will start with Lestrade. So you've seen all this, you noticed all this. Effie said what she said. What do you do?
I do not take orders from Effie. So I'm going to rush over to Martha and kind of survey. What does the man's body look like?
Literally, he looks like someone who would be like 90 years old, like just really thin, drawn. You can see the shape of the bones. The skin is hanging loose. His eyes are just kind of open wide. He's got like this open mouth, like he was about to scream, but he has no more energy. He's still alive. He's still barely alive. He literally looks like if you took a rag that was full of water, then just squeezed it till all the water ran out, like this crumpled rag.
I think that Lestrade would look at Eliza or Martha and see this girl who had been standing outside the police station asking, begging for help, looking very meek. And watching her do what she did and seeing the state of this man and knowing what Lestrade knows about the world now after the incident a year ago, she's going to turn to Martha as she grabs the man by the scruff of his collar and tell her that we need to leave.
Eliza.
Yeah, I think Eliza looks quite bewildered. And there's a rising fear inside of her, of this realization of what she had done and how no matter how she tries to hide it, the result of her power is always the same, and it can't be so easily hidden or talked away. And she's going to kind of release herself from this man and stand and brush off her skirt and look very meekly to Lestrade and just give a silent nod to her. And you, Lestrade, would see how absolutely riddled with nerves she is right now, that she is terrified of what you or anyone else around could possibly deduce from this situation.
Effie.
Does it look like Lestrade and Eliza are about to just leave them?
Yeah, like they're looking and talking at each other, and you would have heard what they said. It's not far enough, and she's kind of pulling her, so you get a feeling that they're probably about to.
Is Effie in a good enough condition that she can at least get into the pub?
Yeah, you can absolutely get up and walk. You're just really kind of like, you're at half energy, basically.
Yeah. Seeing the state of Jack, which is possibly a little bit worse than hers, she's gonna look at Lestrade and sort of glare at her, and knowing that her and Eliza are about to leave them like this, and she's just gonna give a very pointed fuck off. And she's gonna sort of hobble her way into the pub to get help for Jack, and well, for herself mainly.
All right, I'll get back to you in a second. Let's see what Jack's doing.
This isn't Jack's first time being shot, I'm pretty sure.
No, at this point, it's kind of becoming a habit.
I think Jack would try to crawl back up into the wagon seat. Knowing what he knows is in that wagon, he doesn't want anybody near him or it right now. Jack just wants to get back to Lady Rowan Mars. So he would do everything within his power to get that back to her.
So here's what happens as all these actions are going on. You hear a cackling in your head, Mornian. You feel a hand on your shoulder. And when you look around, you see the three bodies in the back of your wagon are getting up, extricating themselves from underneath the tarp, and one of them has reached out and put a hand on your shoulder to help themselves get up. Effie, as you kind of get up and start glare at Lestrade and then start heading for the Ruskin Arms, you look up and you notice there were a lot of people here before. There's no one now, but what you do see are what, for lack of a better description, appear to be dozens and dozens of ghosts or souls or strange evanescent people hanging around this bar, just some of them lying on the ground in front of it, some of them hanging from the rafters, from the sides on ropes, some of them just sort of floating around, some of them coming out through the doors, some of them crawling out of the windows. The smoke is rising out from the street itself. It's like the fog is moving in. You see nobody else. You hear a distant sound of tolling bell somewhere off in the distance. You hear the cawing of birds. There are, again, dozens of these black birds that are just kind of flying around now and landing and pecking at what you now see are dead bodies everywhere littering the floor of this alley. My friends, Kentucky Fried Creature left each of you with another advantage on his way out the door. Thank you, Kentucky Fried Creature. You're the best kind of fried food in existence. Lestrade and Eliza, as you're about to take off, you look up, you see Effie shoot you that glance, and then you see Effie's eyes go completely wide. And that's when you realize things seem to have changed. The walls of the bricks around you are all kind of grayed out. You feel a certain chill as this cold wind just sort of rises and envelops you. You see the spirits of people floating around. When you look up, Lestrade, you see Jack in his wagon, sort of turning around. There's people in his wagon, someone's kind of holding him, but sitting right next to him, staring at you with unbridled hatred, is Morag McVeigh.
I think that there's a I think Lestrade doesn't know whether to trust her own mind sometimes, given her interactions with Holmes, or who she thinks is Holmes, is the ghost of Holmes, is this conjuration of her mind of Holmes. And I think she would back away, kind of grabbing onto Martha's, maybe her sleeve. Do you see them too?
I'm assuming I do see them.
Yeah, if you want, you can make a magic 6 roll. Roll or 6 magic dice.
6 dice?
Yeah.
Okay. One success.
Okay. So this is just kind of an instinctive and, understanding of what's going on because you don't have any training, you don't know for sure. But you somehow feel like you're looking through something. So you kind of feel, because of the 4 successes you got, the super duper critical success you got on your psychic vampirism, not only did you drain this guy completely and break him, but there was enough of discharge of this energy there that you get the sense that you're seeing behind the world as you normally see it, like you've opened a window. The people that are here that you're seeing are the people who have all died around here at one point or another throughout the years. The ghosts of hundreds of people killed in these streets from back in the day when the Vikings held London, to back in the day when the Romans built London, to in recent years, the gang, all the killings they've done around here and gang wars and the murders and all that. And those are all the souls that you're seeing of all these people who were murdered here and remain trapped here. And somehow, because of whatever perhaps connection the four of you have for some odd reason, they're also seeing this. You don't know how you know this. You don't understand this. Like, this is not something you've done before. You just kind of, you feel like when you were a child and you would be waiting for your your mommy to come home, and you would be hanging out in the street because you weren't allowed to go in the house, and you would wander the streets and you would peek into people's windows and you would see what was going on, and sometimes the houses were empty, but sometimes there were people there and you didn't know these people. You just watched them, watched their lives, and sometimes they were still, sometimes they were doing things, but you would be looking through a window at these people's lives there. Now you're looking through a window at these people's deaths, basically. That's how your brain kind of understands it.
She's going to respond to Lestrade. It seems as though we've pierced the veil. Funny. I'm not sure how, but I can see them too. Would she have noticed you looking in the direction of a specific spirit and
Oh, yeah.
any reaction from you?
You would have seen me looking at the one next to Jack that's sitting in the wagon next to Jack, and the one that is looking back at me as well. I haven't taken my eyes off of her. And there seems like it's like my hackles have been raised.
Could I use my medium talent here?
Yep.
Bleak?
Go ahead. And while you're doing that, I'll go back to Effie and Jack and see what they're up to at this particular moment. So this is happening all around you. Jack, one of these corpses is using your shoulder to help themselves stand up. Effie, you're seeing all these ghosts, many of which you recognize, people that were killed by Billy or that were killed in fights and whatnot around this area, just sort of staring at you there forlornly, just kind of hanging around. So let's go with Effie and tell me what you would do, and then I'll ask Jack what Jack is doing.
I think Effie would panic. She is not a person who knows much of the supernatural. She knows that people are into weird stuff. But she is a woman who deals in information of political ongoings, gossip, and financial information. And this is something horrifying to her. And she's going to panic and sort of put her hand out, and she's calling out for Dove, for Jack, for Lestrade, for anybody who'd come and help her, really.
Jack.
Feeling the hand on his shoulder, Jack would immediately look to see what's going on, and then try to, at this point, with everything he's got, he's going to try to kind of beat the hand off of his shoulder. And if he feels like he's kind of stuck there, he's going to try to escape the wagon.
So when you turn on, you bat the hand, your hand goes right through it, and it doesn't seem to faze him at all. He just keeps standing up, and eventually as he stands up, his hand flies out. You do notice the bodies are still in the thing, and what's standing up appear to be these ghostly sort of forms, and they're just kind of stand there looking at you.
If the bodies still seem to be there, Jack's going to try to take off.
All right, no problem. So you turn around and you give the horses a good creep. You were rolling your medium. Who are you doing it on, and what did you get?
So I think in this moment, Eliza reaches out and takes Lestrade's free hand and just kind of leans forward and says, "Who is it?" And I used an advantage and I rolled 1 success.
Okay, 1 is all you need. All right, so you're doing this on Lestrade?
Yep.
You get strange flashes. You see a man on top of you, blood dripping from his face. You feel pain in your shoulder. You hear a loud detonation. You see the man kind of drop on you and lay on top of you. You see a woman, who's the woman you're staring at, cut someone's throat and then sort of run off. You see that woman hanging, dropping at the gallows. You hear the snap of her neck as she is hung. You see a building. You see yourself coming closer and closer to it all the time. You hear a voice talking to you, trying to reach out to you, but it's your own voice that you're hearing, talking at you from behind you. You see Jack, Mornion's character, with a knife, cornering you, coming at you, stabbing you. You feel yourself reaching for a weapon. A gun, perhaps, something you have in your sleeve. You don't know if you're going to reach it. Jack is almost on top of you. You're not even sure if he knows what he's doing or he wants to do it. You hear screaming in another room. You know there's something horrible going on. You hear the sound of this evil cackle and laughter. You see Jack coming at you with a knife. Lestrade, you see Martha's eyes have rolled in the back of her head as she's grabbing onto you and sort of holding onto you. You hear behind you Jack just start whipping the horses. The horses whinny and start trying to pull out. Everything slows down, kind of like you're in a dream. You turn around, you look at Creep again, and Martha, you see this woman that was sitting next to Jack. You see her come over slowly, reach out behind Bones, open her up from the back, and slip inside of her like she's a suit that's hanging on a coat rack or something, and she just slips inside of her and puts her hands inside her arms, then just pulls Bones or Effie's body all over her like a full body suit and adjusts it, adjusts the skin, and then looks at you. Lestrade, you see Martha drop to the ground. As she does, all these strange visions around you disappear. The ghosts disappear. The smoke disappears. You hear Jack, rah, rah. The horse carriage just sort of takes off, almost runs over Effie as she kind of stumbles forward. Effie and Jack, the street comes back to normal. You see all these ghosts and whatnot disappear. You can start moving again sort of normally. Effie, you can see Dove and a bunch of guys come running out with weapons drawn from the pub. What would each of you like to do? So, Mornion, you're taking off. You're whipping the horses. There's no one behind you. There's no one with you. You're just sort of driving off. You're coming to, Creep. You're not completely knocked out. You just kind of passed out for a moment, but you saw all that. And now you're slowly sort of catching your breath and coming to. So let's go to Effie. What are you doing, Effie?
Effie's beelining for Dove, and she's pointing to the body of Duff. And like in a hurried voice, she's explaining that he shot her and all these horrible things, these visions that she just saw, which probably sound like nonsense to him at this point. And she's reaching out and clinging to him and begging him to take her to the doctor.
And he's like, "Who shot you? Who shot you, Effie? Who was it?" And you can see that he's looking at Lestrade, like, because Lestrade's right there.
Yeah, no, she's directing him to Duff on the ground. It was Duff, Duff there. And she sort of reverts back to that young woman, the girl almost, that he met so long ago.
He gives you a quick hug, and then he sort of pushes you aside, and a couple of his men kind of take you. He's like, keep her safe. Someone, he yells at another one, go get the sawbones, and someone takes off to go and get a doctor, and he kind of stomps forward, and you can see that he's got his favorite weapon, his little hatchet. He's got that in his hand, and he's stomping forward. Eliza, you're coming to Lestrade. You're seeing Eliza sort of coming to, but you're also saw if you run to Dove, and he's kind of coming your way. He's got a hatchet in his hand, and he's staring at the body on the ground.
I am sort of patting Martha's cheek. Miss Martha, are you okay? And when I see Dove coming forward, I'm gonna sort of look at him and look back at the body, and my hand goes into my pocket to grab at my coin purse, and I'm going to shove the coin purse into his hand.
Into
Get
Dove's
rid of the
hand?
body. Into
okay.
Dove's hand. Get rid of the body.
He looks at you going, he goes, keep your fucking money, copper. I'll take care of this one, all right? He looks at you.
Does he
Eliza.
notice the body?
No, like right now he's too kind of pumped up. He
Okay.
basically just takes a quick look to make sure the guy's dead, and he doesn't even care because if the guy's not dead, he's just gonna do the business himself. And so he kind of pushes him with his foot, and he yells, and a couple of guys come out, and they grab the body and start hauling him off. And he looks in and he goes, the fuck's all this about then?
Lestrade is almost as bewildered as him. Something unusual has happened. I can't explain it. Effie will be able to tell you what occurred, but it was ghosts. There was
All right, fucking useless. Do you want to fucking restore order here, or should I do it?
Lestrade feels like that's a trick question, considering the neighborhood that they're in, as though she would have been able to restore order here at all to begin with. And she's going to kind of come back to herself, the panic sort of settling as the situation sort of begins to unfold, and she's going to look a little pointedly at him. What do you think?
Well, I think you've got to decide if you want to get the fuck out of here, if you want to go in the bar. People are screaming, like there's people are running
Lestrade's
around.
gonna haul up Martha and begin to make their way back to the doctor that they were heading to begin with.
Not a problem. So you start kind of hobbling away. Effie, you'll see Dove's men grab Duff's body, haul him inside. He'll come back to you. He's like, come on, darling. We'll get you inside. The Sawbones is coming. We'll get you a gin. We'll take care of you. Come on, darling. And he'll guide you inside the bar. Morning, you're like a bat out of hell. You're driving that wagon, just rushing through the streets, pushing people left, right, and center. Where are you heading? What are you doing?
I'm trying to get back home.
You will manage to if you are somewhat lucky. So go ahead and let's just do give me a logic and vigilance. Actually, I'll tell you what. Give me a logic and agility.
Okay. For no reason, I would like to use an advantage.
It's 2 dice.
One success.
All right, so you don't crash somewhere along the way. You manage to, with some skill and some good knowledge of the roads, you manage to drive the wagon and sort of navigate your way. As you're heading towards the manor, one thought does occur to you. This is not going to go unnoticed. People are probably going to try to follow up on this. Do you still want to take this to the house?
Would I know somewhere I could hide it quickly before people start looking for it?
You would know 100 different places around town to do something like that.
Let's stash it for now.
All right, so I'll say you head down to where the docks are, and you will find somewhere there that's got like a shed somewhere that you can kind of park the carriage in and hide the bodies, and no one's going to ask questions. When you get there, the bodies are intact. They're in the back. They haven't moved. They haven't changed. They're still the way they used to be. You're going to be able to stash the carriage away and whatnot, and pay off someone who's not going to ask questions and sort of keep it on lockdown. What do you want to do after that?
Would Jack
You
know?
are quite wounded. You are. I think you have two
Yeah.
conditions, right?
Yes.
So you're pretty banged up.
Would Jack know somewhere he could go to get those
Sawbones, yeah.
without a lot
So
of questions? Yeah.
go ahead and give me logic and vigilance.
All right. 3 success.
Oh, yeah. You know a guy. In fact, he's just across the street. And he owes you a favor. And he
Perfect.
specializes in bullet wounds.
I love it. Jack will kind of try to make himself as presentable as possible, knowing that his entire suit and everything's probably fairly bloodstained at this point. If he can find any way to kind of cover as much as he can with his jacket and just kind of make his way over there and try to get stitched up the best he can.
As you're heading there, the voice in your head will go, "Did you see that?"
I don't know what I just saw.
That girl. She was kind of like me. In between both worlds.
But you're dead.
Well, so was she, love. So was she.
Oh, I remember the good old days when dead people stayed dead.
What I've come to learn, there was never such good old days. You just couldn't see them.
I would like to go back to those days.
Well, you're in the wrong marriage for that. I think your lady thrives on these types of things.
What did she do to that man? What did she do to Duff?
I don't know.
Why the fuck
It
was he
was
trying
like
to shoot me?
She ate his life. Well, no, you'll have to answer that one for yourself. I don't have any answers for that one. I imagine there are a lot of people that would shoot you in this city if they had the opportunity.
It's not in broad daylight. Fair enough.
Oh. I guess you'll have to find out.
She ate his body. Or ate his
life.
soul? His life.
You know, when my brother and I did what we did, one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that this woman would not have a restful sleep. We found out that if you eat someone's brains and their heart and their lungs, you can take their life force with you. That's what we were trying to do. It's kind of what this girl did, but she didn't physically eat this person. She just, I don't know, just ate the life out of him directly. And it's quite a sight to behold. I wish I could do that.
Glad you can't.
Well, maybe I'm just a slow learner.
Maybe we'll be done with you before this matters.
After what we've just seen, not likely.
What was all the other?
That I don't know. A door, a window was opened.
Do you know who that was? That girl, that lady, that...
I do not.
I
Sure,
didn't
your
even get a
lady
good
wife
look at her.
does.
Still debating how much of this I want to tell her.
You don't hear anything.
Great time to go silent. All right. And Jack's gonna kind of hobble his way up across the street and...
Not a problem. Back at the Ruskin Arms, you are in bed, Effie. He's taking you upstairs to one of the rooms. You've been put in bed. There's a couple guards at the door. He's gone out to kind of restore some order. He said he'd be right back. Eventually, there's a doctor that comes. You remember him. He's the doctor that takes care of all of Dove's girls. And he comes in and he goes, "Well, Effie, it's been a while since I've seen you. You look like you've been shot."
How astute of you.
I am a
She's still
doctor.
mad.
I am a
Oh.
doctor.
Yeah.
Let me take a look. And he'll start his ministrations of you, and he'll extract the bullets and bandage you up, and you will regain one of the conditions, but you will remain wounded for now.
Okay.
He'll give you something for the pain, a little bit of laudanum.
Sick.
Yeah, I'll say no more than 4 or 5 drops in a glass of gin. We'll see you right. So you proceed to put like 12.
She just takes a sip from the bottle directly.
Well, see, you haven't changed that much, and I think Creep wants a laudanum. Eventually, after a few more moments, whatnot, things will calm down outside. The screaming stops. The doctor will stay with you until Dove comes back, and then when he comes in, the doctor will just tell him like, she'll be quite all right. I've given her something for the pain, but the wound has to be cleaned regularly, twice a day, and then bandaged freshly every time. If anything starts, if you see any sign of infection, do send for me right away. But she should recover okay. Oh, thank you, Doc. I'll sort you out later. No problem, Dove, no problem. And he'll take off, and then Dove will come down and sit on your bed and take your hand. You're right then, love.
This is the largest inconvenience that I have probably come across in quite some time, Dev.
Well, getting shot is inconvenient at the best of times. Was that man aiming for you? Do you know him?
No, I know his name is Duff, but he seemed to be aiming for Jack.
His name is Duff Claiborne. He used to be the leader of a gang that Jack used to run with back in the day before Jack went to prison. I assume they have some old beef that's unsettled. And he tried to settle it. You were just wrong place, wrong time. I'm glad it wasn't worse than it is. These people you're messed up with now, Effie, Lady Mars, Jack Slattery, even Lestrade, and that strange pauper girl she was dragging by the hand. Is that her child? She's a little old to be her child, but what have you gotten yourself into, Effie?
Duff, can I tell you something, and you truly believe me when I say this?
Of course, dear, of course. He caresses your face.
Do you remember some years ago, when I came to you and I saw that woman killed on the canal?
Which one?
Remember, Dove, I cried to you. Her throat had been slit, and I didn't get to look at the man. And then you sent me off to go see Lestrade.
Vaguely.
And her body was gone. We never found her body, Dove.
What does that have to do with anything?
That was that girl.
Who? Which one?
The young woman, the one woman who attacked Duff on my behalf, I suppose. In general.
What woman who attacked Duff? The woman
girl.
with Lestrade, the pauper
Yes.
girl with the...
Yes.
She did
the
that.
Pauper girl.
She did
yes.
that. Effie, how much of that laudanum have you taken?
Dove, I know what I saw. And I know for a fact that that was that girl. I will never forget that moment, Dove. I will never forget her face. Ever. That was her.
I guess she wasn't murdered then.
Dove, I saw her throat. I saw the blood.
What do you want me to tell you, Effie? That some woman that you saw murdered 3 years ago dragged herself out of the canal and is now out here killing people on your behalf in the streets? Is that what you want me to agree to here?
You're being cruel, Dove.
I'm not being cruel. I'm simply trying to. Look, you've been through a lot. It's not an easy thing, such violence, and to be targeted by it. You've been sheltered from a lot of it in your life because of me, but well, it's finally caught up with you. I think it probably would be best that you get a little bit of rest, and I'll take some of this medicine, and then perhaps in the morning things will be a little clearer.
I think she sort of concedes that she's not going to win this with Dove. Will you stay with me, William?
I wouldn't leave this place if it was on fire.
You're a foolish man for me.
Worse things to be foolish for. Men have died for far less.
Don't tell me that you would die for me, Dove. Just get into bed.
Let me go and get us a little something else to drink. I'm trying to cut down on the laudanum, but I'll be back. And he'll go out and he'll get his pipe and he'll get some gin and a little bit of food, and he'll come back and he's got a book with him, and he's like, "Do you remember this book? I used to love this book back in the day. I thought perhaps I could read it to you while you get some rest."
I would love nothing more.
And so they're in bed, your head on his shoulder, him sitting on top of the cover with his big, muddy, bloody boots, his little cane by his side. He'll read you a story until you fall asleep, and then he'll just sit there all night with you, holding you.
Oh, Dove.
Meanwhile, across the street, you are running through alleys, heading towards the doctor. What are the two of you doing? Do you actually get to the doctor, or do you stop, or what do you want to do? There doesn't seem to be any wounds on either of you.
I think that Lestrade would have sort of been not necessarily dragging, but dragging Martha in the direction of the doctor. And then once they sort of got out of Billy's neighborhood, maybe would have pulled her into an alleyway just to kind of like look her over to make sure that like there was nothing wrong. Are you okay? Is this why you needed to see the doctor?
Where is the doctor?
He's just up the road here.
But where?
Up the road.
How far?
Short walk. I just wanted to make sure that you are okay. That was
fine.
a lot that happened.
I'm quite all right. I promise. Please don't ask me questions.
You see Lestrade, like, if you know Lestrade's reputation, you know that Lestrade wants nothing more than to ask you a million questions right now. And she'll look at your face and she swallows a lump in her throat and she'll sort of, all right then. Come on.
You can see in her face that she is it's a mixture of fear and just being mortified. And she's going to follow you, but she's not going to take your arm if you offer. And she's going to follow almost a pace behind you, not directly at your side. And her head's kind of hung down with her eyes tilted up, looking straight ahead at where you're going.
Lestrade is going to, before we start on, you're going to see a lot of emotions sort of flittering about her face, but there's no anger, there's no resentment. It's just concern for you, for the situation, for whatever is going on with you. And then as you start on and you sort of trail behind her, she's going to kind of glance over her shoulder every once in a while, sort of just to make sure that you're still there, but still maintaining that distance that you've set.
As we get closer to the doctor, is the establishment recognizable, Bleak? Would she know that they're approaching the doctor?
Sure, I would say so. Yeah, there'd be no reason why not. Like, there'd be like a little sign outside that would say they would say surgeon or whatever.
As they get closer,
Not
Eliza's
that you
watching.
can read, but you recognize the symbol.
Yeah, I can see the symbol. As they get closer, Eliza is catching Lestrade glancing back every now and again. And I would like to steal one of the opportunities as Lestrade looks away to sneak off and disappear.
Intriguing. Let's see what you got. Okay, so I will say this. Go ahead, and you're going to make a precision plus stealth roll. Now, because
I'd
you
like
have...
to,
Sorry?
I was going to say I'd like to do so with advantage.
Yeah, and in fact, because you use your psychic vampirism and got so many successes and your body's just overflowing with kind of energy, I'll in fact say that you can take a help at action with it, so you'll get an additional dice. You'll get 2 dice for the advantage and 1 extra die for that. Lestrade,
Okay.
you can make a logic and vigilance roll. Let me just see if you have anything that would help you out. You don't have any conditions. Suspicious would have helped you, but you don't have any conditions, so you just roll it straight.
Okay. Can I use advantage as well?
You can certainly use advantage as well.
That's 2 extra dice or 1 extra dice?
2 extra dice for an advantage. Hey, Scottish Jeff, thanks for the subscription. I appreciate you tossing Uncle Bezos' coin at us.
2 6s.
Sorry?
2 6s.
Dos 6s.
This is the only time this whole time I have rolled well for this. I rolled 3 successes.
Right, well, with my house rule of the 3 successes, 3 6s being the devil's luck, the 666, the devil shines upon you. And Myriad, Lestrade's running forward, and you look back, and she's just behind you, and you look ahead again and take a few more steps and look back, and she's gone. You have no clue where she could have gone. The space behind you is just empty. Creep, as you stop and let Lestrade go off, and then kind of duck into a little alley that's there. You take one last look at Lestrade. And as you do, you feel the last remnant of your using your medium ability on Lestrade. And you see standing there next to her a man, wild-eyed, naked, completely covered in blood, holding a curved knife in his hand and just walking in lockstep with Lestrade. Just right there in her shadow, just an inch away from her. And on that, my friends, we will end tonight's session of the Devil's Orchard
Whew.
Amazing.
with weirdness abounding. Weirdness all abound.
And a naked ghost following me
He's
with a
naked.
knife.
It's kinda hot.
You know,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You know you got something going on when the naked ghosts with knives start following you around.
What do you have?